Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe, where you can get your morning astrology, human design, and sometimes oracle energy report. So grab your cup of coffee or tea. For myself, I am grabbing water this morning because it seems like every morning I'm drinking coffee, my throat gets all clogged up and I start practically choking on myself. So water for me today with my little Seahawks cup. Yeah. I don't know if you all knew this, but I'm a huge football fan, and I especially love the Seahawks. So sad during non-football season because I have nothing to really do on Sundays. Oh, well, I'm sure I could fill it with something. Anyway, this morning has been an extraordinary morning, and so I'm really excited to share some things with you all because here we are. Remember, today is March 7th. And it is the day before Jupiter turns to retrograde motion. It is also the day that we have a void of course moon, and that's important for us to know. And I wanted to take a minute to talk about the Jupiter moon conjunction, because when I got up this morning, all you had to do was look outside and you could see the moon and the giant star next to it, what looks like a star next to the moon, is the planet Jupiter. And good morning, Michelle, and good morning, Roseanne. It's good to have you both with me this morning. And I'm sure there are others out there, I just don't see you yet. So the moon was conjunct Jupiter this morning, and it was absolutely drop dead gorgeous out there. And you know, it's funny. I think it's funny that Michelle G and Roseanne, that you two are the ones that have said hi to me this morning, because I had an extraordinary aha about 5 o'clock this morning, which was kind of funny. That actually woke me up and made me, start to get up and think about this. And your chart, Roseanne, was sitting on my desk from yesterday's coaching. And Michelle, yours was sitting right next to me as well. And I was like, wow, that's great. So I have some extraordinary things that I'm working on, and you two happen to be the guinea pigs. And isn't it interesting that you two happen to be the first two to pop on this morning? I love it. I love the way the universe works. So let's get some other things out of the way here first, because there was also something else really interesting last night. Where I sit in my living room at night, I can look out to the southwest and I can watch the setting sun. Now, good morning, Suzanne Fulmer. The setting sun right now is setting a little bit further to the northwest, but I was looking out to the deep southwest. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is that? Because I can see this bright bunch of light. And I thought it was probably a star or a planet, but I couldn't figure out which it was, what it was. Because like, what am I looking at? And I thought, oh, it's probably an airplane coming into land in Bellingham or Vancouver. So I was like, well, I'm going to do something really interesting. So I downloaded a program, and I can't even remember what it's called, something like Star Map 3D. Star Map 3D. And what it allows me to do is to take my phone and point it at what I'm looking at in the sky, and it tells me what all is in that vicinity. So what I was looking at, people, was the Venus-Mercury conjunction, and it was setting just behind the sun, right? The sun is setting sooner than Venus and Mercury because they're ahead of the sun. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could have gone live on Facebook right that minute to tell you all to look to the deep southwest at sunset tonight. Wait until the sun is below the horizon, and you'll see Venus and Mercury together. They were so close together, they look like one star. Tonight, they might be a little bit more separated, but they look like one star. And of course, I'm at a northern latitude, so maybe that's why it looked that way to me, but it was gorgeous. I can't take a photo, Roseanne. I wish I could, but every time I try to take a picture of the night sky, it looks like a pinpoint of light so far away that you can't really see it. But if you get this type of program, I have an iPhone, but I'm sure it's available for Androids as well. All you do is just point, you see something interesting in the sky, you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. So you point you open the program first, obviously, and you point your phone at it, and it tells you what you're looking at. It's too fun. So I'm sitting out there last night doing this, like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? What's that? And you can set it up to do local stars, or you can set it up to do like the whole of the universal sky, right? So there are the stars that we can see, and then there are the ones that we can't see that are there. So you can set it up to show you only the ones that are visible, or all of them. I said it for just visible because there's so many billions of stars out there. I didn't want it to be so hard to find what I was looking at. So two extraordinary things in our sky, the moon conjunct Jupiter. We are living astrology, right? We get to see the effects of right here, the physical manifestation of what's happening with the moon conjunct Jupiter, and then Jupiter or Venus and Mercury's conjunction just trailing the sun at this point in time. And it was just mind-boggling. So there we are. Let's see. So that means today, then, astrologically, we are still dealing with the moon conjunct Jupiter. And that means, and this actually happened to us a little bit earlier, Star Walk. Oh, okay, that's another program. Does it do the same thing then? Show you, if you point your phone at the sky, will it tell you what you're looking at? So that gives you another one. So Star Walk, and mine was called Star Map 3D. So just when I actually went onto the App Store, there were lots of different ones that were out there. I just happened to pick that one because I liked that it was 3D. And it also outlines the constellations for you. So from an astrological standpoint, if you want to see where the constellation Scorpio is, because you're a Scorpio or because Jupiter's in Scorpio, well, you'd have to understand, too, that from the constellation standpoint, Jupiter really isn't in Scorpio. It's really in Libra. And astrologically, Jupiter is in Scorpio. There's a long story about that one called Precession of the Equinoxes, or just precession in general, where over time, the stars have wandered further out of that, out of the constellation. So our astrology is no longer matching the constellations. So if you do Vedic astrology, their constellations and astrology always match because they keep it current that way. But Western astrology doesn't do that. Go figure, right? It's why there was all of that talk for a while about a 13th sign, because the sun actually moves through a 13th sign now in our history, where 5,000 or so years ago, when astrology was, really being formed, Ophiuchus was not on the ecliptic plane. It was outside of the ecliptic plane, so they didn't use that. But now we actually have the sun traveling through the foot of Ophiuchus, yet astrologically we haven't moved along to incorporate that. That might be something else fun for us to do someday, because I think it's fascinating. I become a Taurus as opposed to a Gemini. And I say people who were born later in their signs are going to find that they may be actually a different sign than what they think they are, or earlier in the sign. So I did a radio show on that one time, and it was really fascinating. But also a point of big contention in the astrological world. You want to start a fight among astrologers? Start talking about the 13th sign. You're going to get a whole host of people hitting on you about how stupid you are that you think that this is something that we could just add in and blah, blah, blah. But because I like to think forward, I like to think about potential and possibility. And the actuality is the sun is actually moving through an additional sign every year. Why aren't we using that? Why hasn't that changed our paradigm? I don't know. To me, it seems pretty, I'm not sure if that's logic or knowingness to me in my own human design that would say, perhaps we really should look at this and see how it is affecting everybody, and see if maybe part of the, and this is why sometimes too, that astrology is sort of looked down upon because of their failures to change with the changing sky. And how can it be, how can you be sure that your astrology is correct when you're saying Jupiter's in Scorpio, but when I look up at the sky, it's actually in the constellation of Libra? And most astrologers will tell you that's because constellations are different than signs. But initially they began the same, because what we saw and observed in the night sky was that Jupiter was in Libra or Scorpio. Over time, it's processed and changed that function or that dynamic. I don't know why we haven't really changed with it. Who knows? It's okay though. It works either way, I think. That means, some of my Scorpio friends out there, you're really not Scorpions, you're Ophiuchians. And because Ophiuchus would come between Scorpio and Sagittarius. So Scorpio is very itty bitty and Ophiuchus is bigger. Kind of interesting. Okay, anyway, that's a whole nother rant that I was on. So Moon conjunct Jupiter, visually connect with it. Although if you didn't connect with it this morning, once we get to tomorrow morning, they're going to be further apart. It won't look so spectacular as it did this morning to me. But the important thing about the moon today is it's in void of course most of the day because it's now in the latter degrees of Scorpio. It's getting ready to change signs. So for those of you on the East Coast, the moon is void of course today from 3:55 a.m. until 5:03 p.m. That takes up almost all of the whole of the business day, right? The whole of the business day for you on the East Coast is void of course. So that means, remember, if we get out our little cheat sheet about the void of course moon, what don't we do, right? We don't start new things. We don't force actions to take place. I'm rummaging around now looking for my cheat sheet. My cheat sheet, maybe I should post this. So some don'ts during the void of course moon. Don't submit your resume for a new job. No way, no how. No snail mail, no email, no delivery by person. Be interviewed. Don't be interviewed for a new job or do a business presentation. Don't start a new job. Don't hold company meetings. Don't make purchases. Don't negotiate prices. Don't test drive a vehicle or drive it for the first time. Don't call on clients. Okay, so those of you who are in sales, don't go telling your boss that your astrologer told you not to call on clients today. Don't get engaged or get married. Don't have elective surgery. Don't open a business. Don't host a party or social affair. And don't gamble or start a trip to a gaming facility. But do spend time in prayer and meditation, sleeping and dreaming, non-material matters. Let someone start proceedings against you in court. Let's not. And don't end a relationship or get divorced. Close doors to end a business. So you get the idea that a void of course moon, not a good time to start something new. There's just no energy around it. And so anything you start tends to just sort of fall apart in its own natural time and place. So the void of course moon for you on the East Coast all day, pretty much your business day. And for us on the Pacific Coast, it started at 12:55 a.m. and runs until 2:03 p.m. So if you have business meetings and things like that you want to do, make it after 2 o'clock this afternoon. So interesting to know these things ahead of time because good morning, Katie. It's good to see you out there. So if you have already planned on a business meeting today and it happens to fall in that void of course moon, what do? Right? You can't just cancel it, especially if it's a big deal. So in this case, I would already understand maybe setting up a secondary meeting to bring on the juicy bits of whatever it is you really wanted to talk about. Maybe do a teaser meeting with another meeting that's scheduled at a time the moon isn't void, of course, or just know that there's probably going to be some things that people didn't get. The reaction, it may not be what you expected. So there may be the redo necessary for the meetings or whatever it is that you'd plan today. But anything that you can control, try to hold off until tomorrow when the moon is not void, of course. All right. So just checking to make sure I've got everything. We still have quite a few planets in Pisces: Neptune, the Sun, Chiron. Venus, though, and Mercury have moved on into Aries. Look at the pattern in our charts. Remember back a few weeks ago, can you guys all see that? It's bright in my room this morning because guess what? The sun's out in the Pacific Northwest. Woohoo! We had patterns where you could see a yod, perhaps, or I showed you kites and T-squares, etc. Now it's just kind of this mess. And that's kind of how I feel about what's going on out in the sky. It's just, that's why, earlier this week was like timing, wait for right timing. Remember our cards that we had, that change is coming. It's not here yet. And this is why, right? The squiggles. It's all about the squiggles. It's all about these lines going every which way. There's no real pattern developing there. Now we could say, yeah, okay, those blue lines are trines and those red lines are squares. The green dashed lines, which I doubt that you can see, are in conjuncts. And so the energy is a little bit, like Roseanne just threw out a great word, jumbled. And so when things are kind of jumbled like that, it's not a good time to really engage in something new because our thinking isn't even clear. So holding off a little bit until some things, clear up, being patient. Patience is a virtue. It really is, especially in human design, because if we are jumping at things too soon, we find ourselves out of lockstep with the timing, right? So everything doesn't seem to happen smoothly. It's like we're having to grab and pull and push our way into things when that's not the natural state of the universe. The natural order, if you will, is that things move smoothly. And if it's not moving smoothly, then somehow we've gotten in our own way, or we've gotten outside of divine right timing. We're pushing the river instead of holding and waiting to respond to what shows up. Or if you're a projector or reflector, waiting for those invitations to get engaged in things. So there's a lot of reasons why right now is a good time to just sort of hold space for things to be revealed. Let things come to you instead of you running after things. And I know that's so hard, right? It's so hard because that's not how we're sort of conditioned to go after things. And going after things doesn't work very well, right? Manifestors, yes, it does tend to work for them. But even manifestors sometimes have to wait. It depends on what their authority is. If their authority is emotional, they have to wait. They have to wait for emotional clarity. So knowing your human design, very important. I hope you guys requested charts if you didn't have your own human design or if you didn't have your own astrology chart. So now let me talk a little bit about my aha this morning, the thing that woke me up at 5 o'clock. So I'm laying in bed and I'm just thinking. I do my best thinking in the early morning or just before I go to bed, kind of when the house is quiet and I don't have to get up yet, or, I don't have to be asleep yet. And so what I was thinking about was part of a discussion I was having with people this week during coachings and things about how the earth and the sun in your human design create a sort of connection, right? A connection with one another. So if you think of the sun as receiving all of the rest of the information in your human design. So if, we have these 10 planets or points that we're using, the sun is receiving the energy of all of those planets, filtering it, if you will, and it filters through that sun and then right down onto the earth here where you live. So it's an interesting thing to look at your human design, sun and earth, then through that lens. So that's what I was kind of ruminating on this morning. That, and remember I told you guys I had an Akashic Records reading, and some pretty key information came out of it that has disturbed my peace. In my inner peace is disturbed by some of that information, because some of that information relates to how I run my business and what I do in my business, or my brand, I guess is how you could work that. And I feel like I'm always, this is so personal and I'm sorry to share personal information, but I always feel like I'm chasing other people's identities, which is stupid since I have a defined identity center, right? Like I'm trying to do things like other human design people would do or I'm trying to do things like other astrologers do it. And then I literally, boom, face plant on the ground because it doesn't work for me. But yet I've never been able to distill exactly who I was or what I was. This morning, I was thinking about human design and this whole sun earth thing. And then I thought, God, I wonder what that looks like in your astrology chart. So how does astrology and human design work? And as far as I know, I'm the only one that ever thinks this way, right? There may be other people that think that way, but they're not actively out there talking about how your astrology and your human design intersect to create you, right? And that's what I was really thinking about this morning, is how is this playing out? So it was funny because I said the first two people that joined us this morning were Michelle and Roseanne. And for whatever reason, those two, Michelle G, not Michelle B, and I happened to have their charts sitting on my desk because I'd had conversations with them this week. So I started thinking about my own chart because I know my own chart. And so then I thought, okay, I'm going to test what I'm thinking about in my own self with other people's charts. Now, by the way, this is not complete, right? So Michelle and Roseanne, when I share this information, it's not complete. So know that this is something I'm ruminating on. This is a void of course moon, so it's not quite set yet, right? So, but here's what I'm thinking. And Roseanne, just say real quick if you're okay with me sharing some of your information. And Michelle G, same thing. Is it okay if I share some of your information before I jump in? So what I was thinking is, I know in my own chart, I have the sun at gate 12 and I have the earth at gate 11. So I went, okay, in my astrology chart, the sun is in my 12th house. Funny thing, right? Gate 12, 12th house. And my earth then would be in the 6th house. So really what I'm dealing with teaching and learning, which is what gate 12 and 11 are all about, is in the unconscious mind of the 12th house and in the conscious expression of what we're doing here on the earth. So I'm really helping people, teaching people about how to live their lives, how to join their subconscious or unconscious and their consciousness together, right? To live their life as one whole instead of these two separate parts, right? So I'm thinking about that. So then when I look at Roseanne's chart, I'm like, okay, so she has, yes, for sure, she says, okay. And Michelle says, go for it. So Roseanne has her sun at gate 1. And gate 1 is the gate of self-expression and creativity. So then I went to her astrology chart. And again, I only picked these two because they had their stuff was here in my chart. So, don't get hurt. I just happened to have their stuff sitting here. And this was 18 minutes, by the way, before the show started this morning. So you know why I didn't go looking for other people's things if I had two people sitting here. So Roseanne's gate 1 is relating to Scorpio in the sun in her astrology chart, which happens to be in the 9th house of expansion, right? Expansion and growth and evolution. And because we're now looking at the conscious line sun, Roseanne, what I really see then, the way that you're here to intensely connect with the energy of growth and expansion is through self-expression and creativity. So if you're finding yourself in your life cramped up by the have-tos instead of the, I want to create this watercolor painting and I want to live my life out loud in color, or I want to, whatever it is that you want to do, then you've got to rearrange your life to be able to do that self-expression, because the other side of the game for you is in the 3rd house at Taurus, and in the gate 2, which is receptivity, in other words, receiving. And Taurus is a sign that takes us to everything about lack consciousness and prosperity. So when you align yourself with self-expression and creativity, then the result for you is prosperity. If you're not experiencing prosperity, you are not expressing yourself in the right way in this conscious world. Remember, I'm still working on this. So then I went to the unconscious column. You have the sun at gate 7, which is a gate of democratic leadership. This is ultimately, this is the gate of leadership that's invited to be the leader or elected to be the leader. Gate 7 is not a gate of dictatorship or autocracy. This is a gate that says, you have all the benefits, or you have all of the skills we need to lead us, right? That's what gate 7 is all about. And gate 7 is a Leo gate. So that takes us to 15 degrees Leo in your chart, which puts it in the 6th house in your personal astrology chart. And then the Earth in your unconscious, the design side, is in the 12th house at 15 Aquarius. And here was the gate of the listener. So you have a design, which is really what your soul's purpose is, and it's not always obvious to you, of being a leader in the healing profession. And I know, Roseanne, that's what you want to do, right? I know that you want to be a healer, and that Earth sign for you, the listener, is about listening to what people are telling you and then being able to creatively express to them how to work through that energy. And by the way, Roseanne has been trained in, I'm not sure if it was past life regressions or hypnosis, but hypnosis for sure. So it would feel to me like that would be the more proper inner expression of what you're here to do. Again, this is just me testing this out. So don't go adopt a whole new life just because of that. Okay. So she's saying that that's what she knows to be true is healing, right? That is her soul's, it's the hidden piece here that I believe she is kind of connecting with right now. Many modalities she's learned. Okay, great. So lots of different things that are going on. The potential here, though, is about healing, but because the sun is in the gate of leadership, but in Leo and in the 12th house, it is reaching into the unconscious or the subconscious and pulling back the reasons why someone may be experiencing the physical manifestations of things here in this lifetime. But it's not going to be easy for you to just do that in the way that you might have been taught to do that. For you, you're probably going to have to be sort of putting together a unique expression of those healing modalities. You're kind of in the same soup pot as me. Is like, how do I break out of, being an astrologer when I'm taking bits and pieces of all these things, putting them together in a new whole, right? And in a way, even though the gates are a little different, it's the same experience for you because it's about self-expression. So being self-expressive means that you're going to have to pull out the different pieces and put them together in a new whole, and then express that in a way that's unique to you. So let's test it on my other friend, Michelle, who's a Leo, and her sun sits at gate 29. In the so Roseanne says, yes, I've known I have to do my own healing modality. There you go. Break out of the pack, girl. Break out of the pack. So Michelle, the sun for her is in gate 29, which, by the way, happens to be the gate of commitment, right? Saying yes to the right things. The gate of commitment is interesting because at the lowest level, it's half-heartedness. It's like only marginally committed to something, where in the gift, it is commitment. And the highest expression of the gate 29, I'm getting it because it's a great word and I don't remember what the word is, devotion, right? So we go from half-heartedness to commitment to devotion in gate 29. So gate 29, she's a Leo, so it sits at 26 degrees or so, almost 27 degrees of Leo in your second house. The second house is the house of money and resources. So when I looked at that, I thought, interesting that, again, I'm going to share some personal information. I hope that that's okay, Michelle. Michelle I helped Michelle do her taxes the other day, which is why her information happened to be sitting out on my desk. And one of the things that I noticed in her taxes is that she dabbles, right? She has this, she had, I don't know, 2 1099s and 2 W-2s, or I might be messing that up a bit. And where, other people, most people, I would say, have a W-2, maybe one for their spouse. And so I'm thinking about that now in relation to this gate 29 about half-heartedness, or the need for commitment and expression of devotion. And it made me think that you're playing the, what do they say when you're playing the field, right? You're playing the field and you're running from one thing to another thing to another thing, and only half-heartedly committed to any one of them, right? You haven't found the thing, right, that you want to commit to, that you want to be wholeheartedly invested in. And when you find it, it's going to bring in money. And I would even dare say, and this I can only say because I know you, that it has to do with you working in a field that is about resources and money, right? Resources and money. And resources come in many things, right? The financial fields seem to be the place where you can really commit yourself. But committing to the right thing ultimately, Michelle, comes because you're a generator and you are sacral awareness generated, which means in the moment there is something outside of you to respond to, you have a yes, this is what I want to do. Unlike the gate 29 that likes to say yes to everything and then throw out things when suddenly they don't seem to fit, which means then you're only ever half-heartedly engaged. So for you, engagement, wholehearted commitment and devotion to something begins to open up the flow of money for you. And then the place that plays out here at gate 30. Now, gate 30 in human design, as soon as a human design consultant sees gate 30, like bells, whistles, alarms go off, because it tends to ramp up the energy of a chart. It really, we call it a red flag gate because it's the gate of desires. It is the desire, oh God, it is the desire for humanity to experience life. And she, of course, has this in the third line, which is the experimenter, experiencer. So now, just as I've told her she needs to find something to commit to, comes this third line and the gate of desire, and the desire being to experience life in all different ways. A built-in conundrum right here, right in her sun and her earth, right? One is to commit, and to commit wholeheartedly to something that she really responds to in order to earn money, juxtaposed against gate 30 that says, but I want to experience everything. And I want, right? I desire. This is not sexual desire, by the way. This has nothing to do with wanting that type of connection. It is, I want to experience the world. I want to, maybe I want to travel the world. I want to be a millionaire. I want to experience that. I want to buy everything I want to buy. I want to, whatever it is that you want, it's very powerful. And it can cause problems in your life because you're leaping into and out of things. And that happens to sit in your 8th house of other people's money, of major transformational energy. And one of the biggest transformations then that you'll make in this lifetime, to me, looking at this then, is when you're able to commit to the right thing that sort of triggers then the flow in your life of money and resources. And then you really begin to see the energy of transformation in your life. Let's look at the other side. The other side is at gate 8 is where the sun is by the design, and gate 14 is where the earth is. So gate 8 is a gate of contribution. So the sun here really wants to make a contribution, wants to help people, wants to be in some way able to say, I contributed to that person's life, right? They want to be a helper, not a caretaker as much as whatever it is they want to do, they want to contribute. And actually, every one of you out there listening has a gate 8 in your human design. It may not be defined, but it does tell you something about humanity, in that we are all designed in some way to make a contribution. But when it's defined, it's like a drumbeat, right? So drumbeat for contribution. And for you, Michelle, this is at 28 degrees Taurus, and Taurus is in your 11th house of dream and vision and wishes and what do I want? You know how, actually, I've had this conversation with Michelle and others where I say, what is it you want, right? This here is a soul's desire to get some clarity around what do you really want? What's that? What is the desire? What is the why? What is the what? And, get to that, right? And then begin the process of envisioning what that looks like. What is it that really is driving you in terms of contribution, right? Part of it is about making money. Obviously, gate 14 wants to earn money. Gate 29 wants to commit. It's in your 2nd house and it wants to commit so it can earn money. So part of it is, though, that the contribution piece is altruistic. The 11th house is the gate of humanitarianism. So the contribution you want to make here is backed by that very powerful 11th house. And in the sign of Taurus, it's about helping people make money or utilize their money properly. Are you hearing where I'm going with this, Michelle? Type in and say, yes, you hear me. Gate 14, though, is the earth. And so remember, this is funneling down to what you do here on the earth and how you earn money. Is at 28 degrees Scorpio, the exact opposite of Taurus, in the 5th house of joy and play. Life is fun for you. So if you're committed to something, she gets it. Got it. She's saying yes. She's been awfully quiet, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm pissing her off. That would be bad. So the 5th house is really about committing then to what it is that you love. What is it that that if you can tap into what it is that really makes you get up in the morning, what is it you could do all day long, then gate 14 begins to earn the money because of that, right? That loving energy, that energy of joy is very attractive and begins to attract to you the situations, the jobs, okay, so I'm going to say this, right? Michelle loves people. She's a people person. She loves talking to people. She loves the social aspects of the job that she's doing right now. She's a networker. You're a networker, Michelle. That's what you love to do, and that is how you're going to find the money. That is where the money is going to be found when you're doing work that is in networking, in bringing in new people, and then feeling like you've actually helped them solidify their own financial world. So we are going to hear more of this as time goes on, because to me, what's trying to figure out what you want, isn't that everybody's problem, is like trying to figure out what you want. Try not to get into the details so much as what is the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture. What maybe try to tap into what is the emotion that you feel when you do things, certain things. I know you're not emotionally defined, but other people around you are going to experience emotions when you are working with them. What is that? What do they show you? Tap into that. So anyway, thank you both, Michelle and Roseanne, for letting me use you as little test bunnies here. And I'm sure I will pull up other people's charts as time goes on as I play with this. Because what I really see is that I'm an astro designer. Astro design. I don't know. Astro-Human design. I'm not sure how to phrase that yet, but that is my specialty. It's what I do all the time. I don't know how I didn't see this, that I'm always integrating both astrology and human design, always. And I leap into those connections very quickly. And just taking those few moments to be able to look up the more detailed information is huge. Astro-Shaman. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Astro-Shaman. Or Astro-Magician or something. I don't know. It will come to me. I don't know when that will come to me. But I'm not going to force it today. Why? Because the moon is void, of course. So I'm even teetering on an edge here, having even brought this up this morning. But I think that it's really interesting, and I couldn't wait to share it with you. But know that there's more pieces probably coming to this as I play with it, because guess what? There are about 9 other planets that I have to look at and see how that's playing, right? Now I want to look at Roseanne and Michelle's and my own moon, right? The moon in human design is what drives you, what gets you up in the morning. And so where's that in their astrology charts, and how does that play out with their human design? By the way, Roseanne, I happen to notice that, is it yours? I believe it is your chart. If I'm wrong, forgive me, that your 15, no, it is your 15 Aquarius Earth by design happens to sit on top of your natal moon in the 12th house in Aquarius, which I believe is at 17 degrees Aquarius, but 15 degrees is pretty dang close. So it means that your drive, your ambition, what gets you up in the morning is very close to the expression of your soul here on Earth. Who else would pull that out, right? Who else would pull that out? So we'll be playing with this, people. I love this. And so I hope people don't mind if I just pick up their charts and play with that and look at it. It's the only way I have to really test these things out, right? Is to do it on myself, which, of course, I have a blind spot to. So in lieu of doing it for me, doing it with everybody else out there. Aquarius genius. Yes, Roseanne, you're an Aquarius genius. But more than that, the moon for you is at gate 13, which takes us to that energy of being the listener, of being able to help people with their stories. Listening to the story means being quiet so that you can receive the story, and then from there set them out to the healing part of all of this. But yeah, definitely part of Roseanne's genius. And you all are geniuses, right? Every one of you has genius. It's pulling out your genius and living your genius that we need here on this planet. So the work that we do with Living Astrology, living our astrology and living our human design is so important. We need your light, right? We need that light coming through your DNA and lighting up the world in the way that only you can. And that makes you all important, right? It makes you all worthy. It makes every person on the planet, even the ones we don't like, worthy, because they're playing a role, they're playing a part, right? Some of them are doing it a little less consciously than others, and I won't mention names, but it's happening nonetheless. So look in the mirror this morning and pat yourself on the back, give yourself a giant hug, for you are a genius. Right? And now I'm looking for your genius, right? I'm looking for my own genius. I have a feeling that we're all actually living our geniuses. We just haven't really recognized it yet. But if you have, keep doing it. If you love it, keep doing it. All right. I think I've babbled on enough for today. So I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning when Jupiter turns retrograde. Ooh, that'll be fun. Take care. Bye for now, everyone.